This is where 4th of July celebration will be tomorrow night. The fellow on the corner with the horn represents the Excelsior Band. And the Excelsior Band is an African-American group that was founded back in 1883. And they traditionally lead most of the Mardi Gras parades. And they're one of these groups that you can't help but get in the swing with, and they'll get people dancing in the streets as they're going through town. So it's everybody looks forward to their arrival. We're going to be turning in front of the Explorium. The Explorium is an interactive museum of math, science, technology, and engineering. Lots of levers to pull and buttons to push and things to do in there. Out front you'll notice that there's a blue oyster shell. I wish oysters were that big. There's about 30 of those around town. They're made of fiberglass and they're painted by local artists, with each oyster shell depicting a different part of Mobile's history. Over to your left is Cooper Riverside Park, and that's a great place to go and just plop yourself down on a bench and do absolutely nothing but watch the ships go by. Talking about ships, over to your left is Gulf Quest. That's an interactive museum about sailing on the Gulf of Mexico. They show you things like how to load a container ship and the effects of currents and weather on your journey. We've got a lot of nautical sayings and where they originated. And up at the top in what looks like this wheelhouse is actually a simulator. You can go in there and pick out whatever kind of ship you'd like to try and drive and see if you can make it into the harbor without running aground. Not as easy as you might think. We're next going to be turning into Fort Conde Village. Fort Conde Village was built back at the beginning of the 19th century. Unfortunately, urban renewal and interstate highway construction have taken their toll here, and we've lost a lot of the buildings. Most of the ones remaining have been restored. The one coming up on your right is the Hall Ford House, and that was built in 1836. Today it's a 5-diamond boutique hotel. They have a lot of meetings and receptions and wedding receptions and things in there. In fact, they're remodeling these buildings here. There's one across the street. There were chalkboard windows on the front of them. They use those for wedding greetings. I noticed they're replacing them with glass. That building is scheduled to become a restaurant. On your left, as we make the turn, is our film office, and that is here to help people who are coming into town to make movies and documentaries and commercials. We've had a lot of things done over the years. A little bit of Forrest Gump was filmed here. Nicolas Cage has done several films. Recently he did Men of Courage about the USS Indianapolis that was filmed on our battleship. The one major film that was done almost entirely in Mobile was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but that was made 42 years ago. It's hard to believe. To your left is the Conde Charlotte House. That was built in 1843. It is a Greek revival style. It's operated by the colonial dames of America, and they have furnished each room in a different historical style representing Mobile's history, and it's open to the public Tuesdays through Saturdays. To your left is Fort Conde. This is a replica of the second Fort Conde that was built by the French in 1723. The British, when Americans took over from the Spaniards in 1813, they didn't want this fort anymore, so they tore the old one down. And when they were building the Interstate 10 tunnel, they found the remains of the fort out in the river, so they were able to reconstruct it, and that's what we see over here is the 1720, a replica of the 1723 fort. It's 1/3 of the original size. By the way, we're right on top of Interstate 10, and that's part of the Interstate 10 tunnel, which we're going to be going through. That's the ventilation system. There's Chief Sakamam Oriniko again, and behind him is a depiction of Phase 2 of Mardi Gras Park, which is going to include a pavilion. Coming up on your right, the last little remaining bit of the north wall of 1723 Fort Conde. Then on your right is Christ Church Cathedral for the Episcopal Diocese of the Central Gulf Coast. That was dedicated in 1843 and has one of the finest collections of church stained glass windows in the country. There are 2 original Tiffany & Company windows in there. Next on your right is our government plaza. This was built in 1993. It's in the deconstructionist style of architecture. It's our city and county offices and courts there. To the left is a salmon-colored house, the Cochrane House. Was built in 1843. This whole area used to be full of houses and buildings from the early 19th century, but in the 1950s and 60s, Mobile applied for and received urban renewal funds. So we had all this money coming in here and everybody saying, oh good, let's tear down all those old buildings and put up new stuff, which we did. In deference to what happened, most of what they tore down in here was in poor condition and probably couldn't have been saved anyway, so it's all just part of our ongoing history. To your left, we have a couple of townhouses that were built in 1862 for immigrant sisters who arrived here from Bavaria with their husbands. We have the Fröhlichstein house on the left and the Goldsmith house on the right. They were joined together in 1967 to form the Malaga Inn. It's a boutique hotel. It's very popular during Mardi Gras. The parades all start and end right behind it. The balls are just a half a block away. So this is right in the heart of everything. So if you want to come back here and you want to stay here for Mardi Gras, you need to be making your reservations now for 5 to 7 years.
Oh my goodness.
It's very popular.
Wow.
We do have some families who maintain permanent reservations here in perpetuity. And they'll come down here and they'll stay a week or 2 weeks at a time and they'll go to their own balls and their friends' balls. Those reservations are so valuable that they are passed down from parents to children in their wills. So we take Mardi Gras here very seriously. I want to point out something else because we're going to see a lot of these. I want you to look on both houses. Between the downstairs windows you will see a shield and a banner. The shield represents the 6 flags of Mobile, and the banner indicates the property was built and who built it. In order to get one of those, you must be in one of our 8 historic districts. Secondly, you have to maintain the exterior of your property for the period when it was built, in this case 1862. You can do anything you want to the inside. You can rip out walls if you feel like it. But as long as you maintain the exterior and you pass the review board, you are given the shield and the banner, and your property is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And Mobile currently has over 2,000 buildings on the National Register of Historic Places. To your right is Spanish Plaza. This is in honor of our relationship with the country of Spain. They gave us this, the tiles that are throughout on the benches throughout the park. They also provide us the statues that are through the park area. The architecture here is mid-century modern, and it is one of 87 parks in the Mobile City Park system. To your left is Malaga Plaza. This is in honor of our sister city of Malaga, Spain, down the Costa del Sol. They gave us a statue of the Spanish fisherman you see there with his baskets of fish. Beyond that, to your left is a building with a domed roof. That is our Civic Center. That was built in 1965. That is where most, about 70% of the Mardi Gras balls are held. Now, if you wish to go to a Mardi Gras ball, you have to be